You're listening or watching the Stop the Mind Screw Show. I'm your host, Kathy Owen, certified fitness trainer and life coach since 2002, teaching Stop the Mind Screw process. We talk about fitness, health, wellness, mindset, and reality transurfing on this show. For a copy of the mind map that we talk about in this episode, you can go to www.kathyowen.com/mind map. I titled today's mind map, How to Find the Type of Motivation You Need Right Now. The number one reason I'm given as a fitness trainer and a life coach for not completing a goal is I'm not motivated. We've all been there. The number one reason I'm given for not exercising is I'm not motivated. Therefore, I became obsessed with human behavior and behavior modification. For how can I set goals for someone if I don't know what motivates them? And even worse, they don't know what motivates themselves. To understand motivation, we must look at exactly what someone desires. What do they want? I love this quote, and I'm also going to interpret it for you with my own quote after this slide. By annihilating desires, you annihilate the mind. Every man without passions has within him no principle of action, nor no motive to act. Basically, in my own words, when you squash your desires with a bad attitude, excuses, or other reasons, you lose passion. When you lose your passion, you have no motivation or no reason to act. Obviously, then, we must know what we desire. And you may say, okay, Kathy, I desire a fit and healthy body. But I definitely do not desire to go to the gym. At this point, we need to identify what motivates you to get that fit and healthy body, and then we can start cracking the code of your motivation. There are two main types of motivation: intrinsic or internal, and extrinsic or external. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, stop the mind screw and motivation, and reality transurfing and motivation. Let's get into intrinsic motivation. When we are talking about fitness and exercise goals, the best kind of motivation, honestly, is internal motivation. Why? Because if you are internally motivated, you're more likely to stick to the program long enough to enjoy the tangible rewards. Ask yourself these questions when trying to identify your internal motivations. What are my internal desires? Do I desire to feel a certain way? What are my internal rewards? Intrinsic rewards are ones that only you know make you feel like you had a sense of accomplishment. Maybe it is a sense of belonging, an act of learning, or even a gold star. What are my intrinsic motivators? What makes me feel motivated? You need to ask yourself these questions. Is it music? A great playlist in the gym? Is it pictures? Have a photo board where you can see your goals coming to life. Or maybe it's the way something feels, like those leggings that feel like butter. You know what I'm talking about. Think about your physical senses when you're trying to decide what motivates you. What sights, sounds, feelings, tastes, and smells motivate you? There are several different types of intrinsic motivation, and we're going to go over those. And I want you to picture yourself in each little story I bring up and perhaps come up with some motivators for yourself. Competence and learning motivation. I happen to be a learning junkie. And I get obsessed with, like I started the episode, I get obsessed with learning personal development, human behavior, and behavior modification. When it comes to learning, that stuff motivates me. I like that. When we start talking about competence, I want to tell you a story about teaching fitness and classes and dancing, because yours truly is not a dancer. I have 2 left feet. I don't even know which direction is right and which direction is left because my brain is too busy thinking about what's going on right now. And as a certified fitness instructor, I had to take classes to learn how to teach classes. But my competence level was not there. And so what did motivate me was learning the material, learning everything about the class and why the music helps with your workouts, those kind of things. But what didn't motivate me was taking a dancing class and going in front of all these instructors, Grapevine right and Kathy's going left. That was not competent. But I did learn how to apply what I learned in those classes to teach boot camp classes, to teach water aerobics classes. I had no problem doing that. Attitude motivation. Attitude motivation is a good example of a feeling of sense of accomplishment, like job satisfaction, or feeling like you really help someone. Oftentimes, I find that others who work out together, help one another, and teach each other new skills have the attitude that helps them overcome the motivation hump. This turns out to be a great source of motivation for them. So I had this client named Karen. I would teach her workouts. She would go home and train her friends the same exact workout. This motivated her. As an example of attitude, it kept her coming to the gym, and then it kept her coming to her workout sessions with me, and it also applied to others as well. And that's also another type of motivation, which is achievement motivation. I love teaching other entrepreneurs, but I am not enamored by the glitz and glamour of a reward like money, but rather the feeling of accomplishment I get when I teach someone else a new task in their business. Same thing in fitness, same thing in life coaching. It's all very similar. That motivates me. Find what motivates you with the achievement, and you might be surprised. Creative motivation. Creative motivation, we are all motivated by some type of creativity. We've been given that gift. It's just a matter of honing in on it. For example, I have a hobby that is photography. And I find that having a hobby that doesn't relate to anything else becomes a cornerstone habit, like we talked about last week in habits. And a cornerstone habit is something that you build off of. So that photography habit just happens to spark creativity inside of me while I'm working on my hobby that I apply to other things like coaching and just my job in general. And then there's physiological motivation. I'm often hired by people because my client wants to feel better. Maslow's hierarchy of needs discusses this very well about how all humans are motivated by basic needs such as food and shelter, as well as higher level psychological needs and self-fulfillment. These needs are innate in all of us, and we are internally motivated to achieve them at all costs, making it helpful when trying to understand the thought processes of ourselves or others. So the physiological needs, finding food and shelter, getting your basic needs met, then we're motivated internally to achieve those because it's just a basic human instinct to get our needs met. So the law of survival. So the types of motivation of intrinsic motivation we have are competence and learning motivation, attitude motivation, achievement motivation, creative motivation, and physiological motivation. So the next type of motivation we're going to talk about is extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation, remember, comes from external circumstances. Extrinsic motivation represents motivational drivers that focus on external rewards, like getting a raise or avoiding punishment. Extrinsic motivation relies on outside factors to incentivize you to achieve a goal or engage in a task or a habit, making it potentially less sustainable than intrinsic motivation because it's outside your direct control. When trying to identify your external motivations, ask yourself these questions. What are my external rewards? Is it part of being a social group? Do I enjoy being around different people? Does being around others give me a feeling or a sense of accomplishment? And does the external environment I am in create motivation for me? Just like there are types of intrinsic motivation, there are types of extrinsic motivation. Incentive motivation. At my place of work, we have what's called a scavenger hunt a couple of times a year. And these people that participate in the scavenger hunt are motivated by incentives or extrinsic rewards. And oftentimes the person inspired by incentives will complete the challenge or skill, but will not follow through until completion. Once the incentive is won, they quit. Or if they don't win the incentive, they quit. Fear motivation. You got your doctor breathing down your neck, or perhaps you're fixing to go on vacation and you want to have that beach body. Fear motivation can disappoint you. Why? Because let's say you start feeling better, then you quit exercising. Why did you start to exercise in the first place? Remember that. Your desire. You lost motivation. Or let's say you did the exercises to get fit for the summer, but you injured yourself and were unable to complete the journey. You too lost motivation. Power motivation. I have a very funny example for this one. Call it the Napoleon syndrome or the gym rat who's in the gym lifting all these heavy weights and picking them up and dropping them. Picking them up and dropping them. I get why they're doing this, but there was a time I was working out at this gym and the gym was actually upstairs. And they would pick up and do their deadlift and drop the weights, all the way down, because they were probably doing a clean press where they press it all the way up and then drop it all the way down. And actually the other day I was in the gym and I saw this guy doing this and he was just grunting and groaning and dropping his weights and a huge distraction all the way to the locker room. The guy, when I worked out at the gym where the gym was upstairs, it sounded like thunder. And people who were inexperienced and going to the gym were like, what is that noise? Or it's a huge distraction. Even worse, we know what that person sounds like when he's having sex. I'm just saying. And that's just gross. But I've been in a gym long enough to know that this is what happens. And it's a power thing. It's a power trip these people have to go on. Because if you're strong enough to pick it up, you're strong enough to put it down nicely. And actually what happens when you drop it like that, you start using momentum and you just mess up everything. So you're just making an idiot of yourself or a distraction in the gym, and you're motivated by that effect that you're having on everybody else. Affiliation and social motivation. I have a great example where I work out at Planet Fitness too. And that example I just described does not happen at Planet Fitness. Why? Because they have this alarm that goes off called a lunk alarm. And that lunk alarm will go off when somebody's acting a fool in the gym. I love Planet Fitness because they have that affiliation and social motivation. They have so many examples of it throughout the gym. We are non-critics. We don't judge. And during the pandemic, they trademarked the term social fitnessing. It was awesome. So Planet Fitness is a great example of this because they make you feel welcome. And that is social motivation. That's affiliation motivation. I like being affiliated with that. I like going to that gym just because of the atmosphere. So the types of extrinsic motivation are incentive motivation, fear motivation, and power motivation, affiliation, and social motivation. That's a lot of Asians. So what do Stop the Mind Screw and reality transurfing have to do with all of this? Step number 1 in Stop the Mind Screw is, what do you want? What exactly do you want? Remember, desire is the key to finding what motivates you. If you don't desire to go to the gym, you're not going to go. But if you find what you want and you imagine it in detail with all the senses, and you dream big enough so you don't have to have extrinsic motivators come into play. You have it inside of you. You know what you want. Step number 2 in Stop the Mind Screw is a mental diet. Don't dwell on negative thoughts. That's all a mental diet is. It's not easy, but it's simple. And when we let go of those negative thoughts, we can easily understand what we desire and go right through the process to know what motivates us. When it comes to reality transurfing, a positive slide and positive sound bites. Affirmations that work. A positive slide is just picturing yourself from the end in mind, picturing yourself in that slide, that visual. But maybe you're more audible. And so the positive sound bites really work good for that. And those are affirmations that work. We recently did a podcast episode on this, and it's number 36, the Stop the Mind Screw podcast. There will be a link in the description and show notes to that episode. So in review, the type of motivation most likely to succeed can be tricky for our own personal development and personal growth. Study the types of rewards each type of motivation brings and find what you desire. Does the desire present a positive outcome? If so, you are on your way. And the good news is, you know what motivates you. So next time, you will find the results without all the hard work. And you won't be coming to your trainer saying, I'm just not motivated. It's a win-win situation. All right, that is your episode for today. I hope you liked it. If you know someone who can benefit from it, please share it with them. And also, to download the mind map associated with this episode, just go to kathyowen.com/mind map, link in the show notes and the description. Until next time, I'll see you next time. Peace out and namaste.